Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something many of you might, well, recognize. The mid-career crisis. Think of it as that point, usually, mid-30s to mid-40s,
Yeah.
when your career path feels maybe a bit uncertain, less like a clear highway.
Yeah, it's definitely a crossroads moment, a time for some serious questioning about where you are and where you're actually heading.
And it's pivotal, right? Questioning the job, your professional identity, maybe even your bigger goals.
Absolutely. And for listeners wanting the core insights quickly, well, you're in the right place. We've dug into quite a bit of research on this.
Yeah, we have.
Our goal today is really to unpack it.
Yeah.
What is this thing? What drives it? And maybe most importantly, how can you actually navigate it?
Okay, so let's get right into it. What exactly is a mid-career crisis? It's like more than just hating Mondays, right?
Oh, definitely. It's deeper. Our sources give us a pretty good handle on it. If you look at, say, Webster's is middle, obviously, and career covers your job, your life's work. Merriam-Webster even uses this image of a road for vehicles. Really paints that picture of a journey.
A professional journey, yeah. But there's more to it.
Well, yeah. Hughes, for example, saw career more subjectively, like a moving perspective that shapes how you see everything work, life, meaning.
So it's not just the job title or the tasks. It's tied to your sense of self.
Exactly. It's deeply personal, which is why that feeling of unfulfillment often sits right at the center of it.
That kind of nagging feeling that something's missing. You want something different, but maybe you can't even name it yet.
Precisely. After, 10, 15 years in a field, things can feel, well, repetitive. You might feel emotionally drained, maybe a bit stifled.
And the work that used to be exciting just feels flat.
Yeah, it can,
Ugh.
leading to that sense of being lost, kind of adrift professionally.
Which must be pretty unsettling, especially when you've put so much time and energy into building that career.
It really can be. It makes you question those early choices, the assumption that what you picked in your 20s would just work forever.
Okay, so let's say you're starting to feel some of this. What are the warning signs, the red flags our sources point to?
Well, one of the big ones is just a real drop in motivation. Enthusiasm fades. You feel consistently bored or just not
Not
satisfied.
getting that same kick out of it anymore.
Right. And then there's feeling stuck, like really stagnant, maybe limited growth opportunities where you are.
Is that always about promotions or?
Not necessarily. Our sources actually mention a lack of autonomy being a big factor too.
Yeah.
Even if you're not aiming for the next rung on the ladder, feeling like you don't have control over your work can really contribute to that stuck feeling.
Makes sense. And it's not just feeling low, is it? There's more.
Yeah, sometimes it shows up as increased cynicism, negativity towards your work, your colleagues, maybe the whole industry.
You start questioning the bigger picture, the why behind it all.
Exactly. And that often comes with a strong desire for change. You might find yourself, daydreaming about totally different careers.
Okay, what about physical or emotional signs?
Good point. Sometimes it manifests physically. Things like chronic fatigue, trouble sleeping, maybe even headaches. It's stress, really.
Under the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And emotionally, you might notice more anxiety, irritability, maybe even some symptoms of depression. It's all linked to questioning those big life choices, Is this career really aligned with my values, my long-term goals?
So what's actually causing this? What are the common triggers or factors our sources identify?
Job dissatisfaction is definitely a major one. Could be the work itself isn't engaging anymore, or maybe it's the environment, the culture.
Or just feeling like there's nowhere to go, development-wise. Right?
Exactly. And that ties into another key piece. Lack of fulfillment. There was this interesting Fortune article from way back in '94 that talked about needing meaning beyond just the paycheck.
Right, that search for significance in what you do.
Yeah. After a while, money isn't always enough. People want to feel their work actually matters somehow.
And burnout, that must play a huge role too.
Oh, absolutely. Years of high stress, maybe an overwhelming workload. It just grinds you down. You start asking if the personal cost is worth it.
Then there are the outside pressures, like what society expects.
For sure. That feeling that you should be at a certain level by a certain age, it can create this pressure, this feeling of maybe not measuring up.
Even if you're not sure who set the benchmark in the first place.
Right. And then there's our own internal drive, the desire for personal growth. As we get older, we often want new challenges, new skills, if the job isn't providing that.
You start looking elsewhere. Makes sense. And big life changes. Marriage, kids, loss.
Yeah, those can definitely be catalysts. They often prompt a major reevaluation of priorities, including career. And of course, we can't forget comparing ourselves to others.
Ah, the comparison trap.
It happens. Seeing peers achieve certain things can make you question your own path.
So that feeling, that restlessness,
Yeah.
one source called the mid-career itch. What's behind that specific feeling?
Often, it's that career plateau we talked about, feeling like you've hit a ceiling, growth-wise, stagnation.
Yeah.
And as you get more self-aware, you might realize, hey, this path doesn't actually fit who I am becoming or what I want anymore. Priorities change.
Like maybe work-life balance suddenly becomes way more important.
Exactly. Or making a different kind of impact. It's not always about climbing the ladder. Sometimes it's about finding, well, a different ladder altogether.
Or getting off ladders completely for a bit.
Right. And just that basic human need for new challenges,
Hmm.
Intellectual stimulation. Doing the same thing for years can dull that.
Plus the external stuff we mentioned, comparisons, expectations.
They definitely amplify the itch. And simple burnout or dissatisfaction, too. They just make you crave a fresh start.
And technology, industry changes. Does that play in?
Oh, absolutely. The world of work is changing so fast. Sometimes that itch comes from a feeling of needing to adapt, learn new things just to stay relevant. That fear of becoming obsolete can be a real motivator for change.
So it seems like job satisfaction takes a dip for many people in midlife. Why then, specifically?
Well, that career plateau concept is key. Shine talked about this, where you feel progression has stalled. Not just promotions, but learning, challenges.
The sense of moving forward kind of disappears.
Right. And when you feel like you're not growing and maybe feedback and recognition decrease too, satisfaction can really drop.
Feeling stuck and maybe a bit invisible. Not great for morale.
Definitely not. And then, as you mentioned, work-life balance often gets trickier in midlife. More responsibilities at home, maybe aging parents, kids. Juggling it all adds stress.
The squeeze from both ends.
Exactly. And priorities just shift. What mattered in your 20s might not be the main driver in your 40s. You might crave more meaning, better balance, and if the job doesn't offer that alignment, dissatisfaction grows.
It's also possible different generations just view work differently, right?
Mhm.
Gen X might have different expectations than millennials or boomers.
That's a fair point, too. Those generational perspectives can definitely shape how people experience mid-career.
Okay, shifting slightly. What about things happening outside of work, like family crises or the economy tanking? How do those feed into this? It's not all internal.
Oh, not at all. External factors are huge.
Yeah.
A family crisis, like marital problems,
Yeah.
health scares, money struggles that can completely derail your career focus.
Yeah, it forces you to rethink everything.
Exactly. It can change your goals, impact your performance, mess with that work-life balance you were trying to maintain, and the economy. Well, that's a big one, too.
Recessions, downsizing, scary stuff.
Right. It limits opportunities, makes growth harder, creates insecurity. You might have to change your career plans simply because the landscape has shifted.
Our sources mentioned the 2009 downturn as a big example of that. Did they say how that kind of uncertainty changes the types of moves people make? Like, do they play it safer?
That's a good question. The sources emphasize the impact more broadly, forcing revisions to goals. But it stands to reason that widespread instability might make people more cautious, perhaps looking for stability over passion, at least temporarily.
But it's not all doom and gloom. There are buffers.
Yes, absolutely. Things like having strong social support, friends, family, mentors, good coping strategies, just basic personal resilience. These can really help mediate the impact of those external pressures.
Okay, so we've talked about the itch, the causes, the external pressures.
Yeah.
Let's get practical.
Yeah.
What can people actually do to get through this phase? How do you overcome that restlessness?
Right, the actionable stuff. Well, the first step, and it's critical, is real self-reflection, honest assessment.
Taking a proper look inward.
Yeah. What are your core values now? What genuinely interests you? What are your strengths? What do you really want long-term, personally and professionally?
And then, once you've done some soul searching,
Skill development. Lifelong learning, it's huge. Actively getting new knowledge, staying current, maybe even exploring totally new areas, it opens doors.
networking too, I assume. And maybe finding mentors.
Definitely. Building those connections, seeking guidance from people who've maybe been through something similar, it's invaluable. Gives you perspective, ideas.
And that work-life balance piece seems crucial.
Integration, yeah. Setting boundaries, finding a rhythm that supports your overall well-being. It's not sustainable otherwise.
You also need to be willing to, take a leap?
Embrace change, yeah. Take some calculated risks. Step outside the comfort zone. Maybe it's a new project. Maybe it's exploring a completely different field. That can really re-energize you.
And don't go it alone.
Please don't. Seek support. Talk to peers, connect with professionals. Collaboration can spark amazing things. And fundamentally, prioritize your own well-being. Self-care isn't selfish, it's essential.
Physical and mental health is the foundation.
Absolutely. And finally, just adopt that mindset that growth is ongoing. It's a journey, not a destination you hit and then stop.
Okay, so those are the strategies. What about concrete actions? If you're in this transition, what steps can you take? You said self-reflect, but how? Practically.
Right, making it real. Self-reflection could mean journaling regularly, or maybe taking some formal career assessments. Those can offer surprising insights. Even just scheduling quiet time to think. What drives me? What's my vision?
And after that, assessing skills.
Yeah, a proper skills assessment. Look at your technical skills, sure, but also your transferable ones. Communication, problem solving, leadership, things you can use anywhere. Know your strengths and where you might need to develop.
Then networking becomes more focused.
Exactly. Go to industry events, get active on LinkedIn, reach out to people whose careers you find interesting, be intentional about building those relationships.
And keep learning.
Nonstop. Certifications, online courses, workshops, whatever keeps you adding skills and knowledge. And be open to change. Maybe volunteer for a different kind of project at work, or seriously consider that pivot into a new area.
What about getting help, like coaches or mentors?
Absolutely see professional guidance. Mentors, career coaches, they offer objectivity, advice, practical strategies. It can be incredibly helpful. And don't forget your personal brand.
How you present yourself professionally.
Yeah. Build your online presence, share your expertise, increase your visibility, and always, always prioritize that work-life balance and build your resilience. Learn to adapt, bounce back from setbacks. Think growth mindset.
So it's like a toolkit of actions you can draw from.
Exactly. Not necessarily step by step, but a collection of things you can do to actively manage the transition.
One last area. How do age and just plain old work experience factor into this? Does everyone in their late 30s or 40s go through it the same way?
No, definitely not. It's quite varied. Some research suggests older workers might actually have higher job satisfaction, maybe due to mastery, more autonomy, better work-life integration.
Interesting. So it's not an inevitable dip for everyone.
Not at all. Individual experiences vary massively. And while lots of experience is obviously valuable, brings expertise, industry knowledge, you still need that commitment to keep learning to stay relevant.
So experience alone isn't enough.
Right. And how people prefer to learn might change with age, too. Same with work-life balance. Experienced people might have better strategies, but life commitments change, so priorities shift.
So it's really complex, a mix of age, experience, personal circumstances, industry.
Exactly. It's a very intricate interplay.
Right.
What's true for one person might be totally different for someone else, even at the same age or experience level.
Understanding that complexity seems key, both for individuals and for, say, companies trying to support their employees.
Absolutely. Recognizing the nuances is crucial for providing the right kind of support.
Okay, let's wrap up this deep dive into the mid-career crisis. It's clearly, well, a common thing, a potentially transformative time filled with questioning, wanting change.
Yeah, and influenced by so many different factors, personal and professional.
And the big takeaway seems to be about self-awareness, continuous learning, and really taking proactive steps.
Right. It's not something that just happens to you. Navigating it well takes conscious effort, reflection, and a willingness to maybe try something new.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Instead of seeing this as a crisis, what if you viewed it as an opportunity?
A powerful one.
Yeah, a chance to really reevaluate and intentionally create a more fulfilling professional future. So ask yourself, what's one small step you could take, maybe even today, to reflect on your journey and figure out what truly aligns with your values and hopes for the next stage?
It's time for a deep dive into your own potential.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.